What is up everybody, Afiq here and welcome back to my channel. How you guys doing? So for today's video, as you can see, I have something that's quite common here on the Malaysian road. So this car actually needs no introduction. It is the first generation Perodua Myvi. Now the Myvi in Malaysia has always been something of a character. It is basically the car that pretty much everybody owns. Probably your neighbor, your cousin, your father, whoever that you know in your life might own a Myvi sometime for the past 10 years. Now the Perodua Myvi here in Malaysia, before it became sort of like this king of memes and before it got so common, the Myvi actually represents a very revolutionary car for Perodua during that time. Let's not forget, this particular car launched in 2005. And from the looks of it, I think it still looks quite modern. So without further ado, let's check out the first generation Myvi, and this is ABB Automotive. So here at the front of the Perodua Myvi, so the face that you see here is the pre-facelift version. So somewhere in 2008 or 2009, the Myvi received a facelift. Okay, so as you know, the Perodua Myvi essentially redesigned and a rebadged Daihatsu Styrion as well as the Toyota Passo. But with this face, Perodua sort of like give its own character. And then here in Malaysia particularly, we were introduced to the Myvi first before we were made aware of the existence of the Daihatsu Styrion as well as the Toyota Passo. Okay, so comparing to a lot of Perodua models during that time, I would say the Perodua Myvi when it first came out in 2005 is a very modern, very revolutionary and a fresh design that came from Perodua. Because if you think about it, the car that during that time that Perodua has sort of like Kalisa, you know, a Kanchil, and then you have the Canary as well as the Kembara. It has a design that I feel like it was stuck in the late 90s. So when the Myvi came out, it was very modern, a lot of swoopy lines everywhere, and then the whole car just looked like it came into the 21st century. Okay, so for the front of the car, only the upper two trim, the SXI, the EZI, the EZ as well as the XX came with the fog light. If you get the base SR model car, it doesn't come with the fog light. Okay, but the headlight itself, it is multi-reflector halogen. Okay, no projector there, and then you have a signal in the middle here. You have a very small and slim upper grille as well as a nicely integrated lower grille. Personally, for me, I still think that the pre-facelift Myvi for this generation has a slightly more character to it compared to the facelift. The facelift one has that slightly smiley face look to it, but personally, for my preference, I still prefer this face over the facelift face. Okay, you do have a nice chrome logo here, and during this time, a manufacturer was not obsessed putting a very big logo in the center of the car. Just a nice, simple, very subtle logo. Okay. So under the hood of the Perodua Myvi, so the Myvi back then came with two engine choices. The base SR engine came with a 1-liter 3-cylinder engine, while the upper two trim gets a 1.3-liter 4-cylinder petrol engine. So this engine is the code name K3VE 1.3. So it produces around 85 horsepower with 116 Nm of torque. So that power is sent to the front wheel via a 5-speed manual or a 4-speed automatic. So in terms of power, it is definitely not something to write home about. But back then, the Myvi was launched with fuel efficiency in mind. But fast forward today, this engine has been known to be quite reliable and very bulletproof. So that is a good news. Overall, I think this engine is quite sufficient for this size of car. So here at the side of the Perodua Myvi, as you can see, the Myvi when it was first launched, the character design of this car is quite clean and quite simple. Particularly, there's not much lines going on with this car other than the bottom part of the at the seal there. Okay, so the Perodua Myvi back then, as you know, based on a lot of Toyota models, they were starting to experiment with sort of like triangle design. So you can see this is evident by this C pillar. So a lot of that time, if you see something like the Caldina, Toyota RAV4, it has this sort of like design where it goes upward like that towards the back. Okay, I do love this part. Like, I think that when the Myvi, when it first came out, I think this is quite a modern design comparing for what they have during that time. Okay, so another thing that I like about the Myvi is that it is the first Perodua car to be equipped with this door handle design. So most Perodua at that time, it has a door design where you pull upward. So this one is literally the first Perodua to have this modern door handle style, which you can see on most cars nowadays. Okay, it has a very aerodynamic look to it, quite clean design. I do like it. The side mirror is very big, and this is the first Perodua car also to be equipped with the indicator mounted on the side mirror rather than on the fender. So again, this is a very modern design back then. Overall, the shape of the Myvi does look a little bit like a box car, but not too much to an extent of it. There's still some curve around the rear wheel arc to give it a little bit more character. Now, in terms of wheel design for the Perodua Myvi, so the mid-spec and the higher spec Myvi feature this rim. So this is 14 inches, finished in this sort of like alloy loop. It is a 5-spoke design, very minimalist, and I like that it has sort of like a little bit of a turbine character to it. It's not like over the top, but it is quite subtle. Now the base Myvi SR that time came with a hubcap rim. It came with a steely basically and have a hubcap. So back then, I think this design is quite nice for the Myvi. Of course, by today's standard, this is very boring looking rim. But so here in the back of the Perodua Myvi, just like the rest of the car, the back end of the Perodua Myvi for that time in 2005 is a very modern design. I think it looks quite good. So the Perodua Myvi is one of the first Perodua cars to equip with LED tail lamp. So back then when this first came out, I was quite amazed by the look of this. It looks very nice. It looks like crystal like that. Okay, and then for the Myvi, the top spec SXI as well as the EZI come equipped with this roof spoiler. So if you get the lower SR or the lower mid spec Myvis, it doesn't come with this spoiler. Okay, and then it is also one of the first Perodua cars to be equipped with this modern style wiper, where the rear wiper blade is completely covered. Okay, towards the bottom you do have a pair of reflectors, and then you do have reverse parking sensors on the Myvi. Now in terms of cargo capacity, it's not as much as to compare like for a sedan. Okay, but then the shape is quite nice. You have a nice square box shape, and then the rear seat can be 460/40 to increase more cargo capacity. Essentially, the Myvi was the perfect car back then for small families because it is really practical, and then the space, if you fold down all the rear seat, it can transform this car into a very good cargo hauler, making the Myvi quite a flexible car. Overall, the back end of the Perodua Myvi, again by today's standard, it's quite boring, but back then when it first came out, it's quite a very nice design from Perodua. Oh, last thing to mention, up top, the Myvi is equipped with a bee sting antenna. Okay guys, so currently I'm sitting inside the first generation Perodua Myvi. For this particular car, the owner has kept everything relatively standard, and even down to the radio. The radio is still the standard unit from 2005. Now, the first thing that I get inside here, the first impression that I get is that this is a car built to a certain price point. When you look at the dashboard, it is hard plastic. So yeah, even to the side panel, it is hard plastic, and then the color scheme is sort of like this black with silver trimming. There's no chrome highlight to lift up the cabin, but I quite understand. This is supposed to be a budget-friendly car. But then the design of this car, the dashboard, I would say is actually quite pleasant looking design. The ergonomics is very nice. Towards the center console over here, below the radio, you do have a very traditional looking switches for the air conditioning. There's no automatic aircon here as expected. Okay, you do have 3 big knobs to control your air conditioning. Underneath that, you do have a very big compartment or space to put sort of like your keys or whatever nooks and crannies that you have inside the car. You can just chuck it inside here. It's very deep and it's very big. Okay, underneath that, you do have a place to put some your coins in, and then towards the bottom near the floor, you do have 2 cup holders. So the owner over here has put in an in-car what I call trash bin, which is quite convenient, and then it fits nicely. Okay, a nice way to keep your car tidy is keep a small rubbish bin in your car, right? So this car is equipped with the 4-speed manual. So as you know, as I mentioned before, this car can be equipped with either a 4-speed automatic or a 5-speed manual. So the shifter on this car, the manual, it is somewhat long throw, but then I would say like the accuracy is quite accurate. It's very easy to get into the gear that you want. Going to reverse, you will hear that beep sound if you go into reverse, and that chime is quite standard. I've heard a couple of times of that sound in like something like a Toyota Avanza, you know. So that is a sign that this car is a part of the Toyota recycle bin. Okay, so in front of me, in terms of adjustability, the steering itself, there's no button on it. Quite a clean design. Again, the owner has kept this car relatively well. I don't see any chip on the steering wheel. There's no decolorization on the surface of it, so quite nice. In terms of what you call adjustment for the steering wheel, you only have tilt adjustment for this car, so there's no telescopic. As expected, this car is built to a certain price point, but then even like it only has like tilt adjustment, I would say like the driving position for this car is quite nice actually. I don't feel like the steering is too far from me. I am quite near to the steering wheel, and I don't feel like if I'm driving, my hand is quite stretched out. So that is quite nice, right? No power folding side mirror yet, but you do have electronic adjustment for it. All your windows are powered except only the driver's side is auto down, but not auto up. So going up, you still have to press the button up manually. Okay. Towards the center console, originally the Myvi did not came with a center console. Okay, it's just like just an open area compartment over here. But the owner did install an aftermarket what they call glove box or center console, if you will. Okay, and then it has a soft touch at the top, which is quite nice for your elbow. Towards the passenger side, in terms of safety, back then, if you get the top spec Myvi SXI and EZI, it does come with dual front airbag as well as anti-lock brake. So this car is considered top of the range. You do have a passenger airbag as well as a driver airbag. Glove box also quite a big space, I would say. Like for something this size, the glove box is quite deep. Yeah, and then it's a nice square shape. There's no awkward shape inside there. Looking at the radio, it is a very basic radio, but I do like the design is integrated nicely into the dashboard. It's a basic radio. You have a volume in the middle. It's CD capable, but then I don't see any Bluetooth connectivity for this model. But from what I understand, the facelift Myvi does come with a Bluetooth equipped stereo system. Okay. Being a Japanese car, the wiper will be on the left and then the signal indicator will be on the right. Now, another thing I forgot to mention is that in front of me at the speedometer area, so for something that came out in 2005, and this is considered a budget car, it's less than 50,000 ringgit, you have illuminated backlit, what do you call that, speedometer. So it is black when you off the car, and then when you turn on the car, there's a white backlit light to illuminate your speedometer as well as your tachometer. So for me, this is quite modern. To put into perspective, most cars during that time do not have this sort of like technology yet. Most of them is just pretty normal analog, you know. Okay, so here sitting at the back of the Perodua Myvi first generation, the first thing that came to my mind is for how small this car is, this cabin is absolutely airy and roomy. I mean, the amount of headroom I have in this car is just amazing, considering the size outside. Legroom also not an issue, so this front driver's seat is adjusted to my driving position. I am around 166 cm of height. Legroom, not an issue at all. Headroom also, despite my spiky hair, not an issue at all. And then I want to mention that the angle of the rear seat is quite reclined, so I actually feel quite relaxed. There's some angle to rest my back on. Now in terms of amenities, you do have dual map pockets, okay, and then there's no storage at the side of the door, only at the front, and then you do have a pair cup holders in the center here on the floor, okay. The one thing that I do have a gripe is that there's no rear headrest, no adjustable headrest, so after a while I think my head will get tired because there's no place for me to rest my head properly. I do wish that it has like adjustable headrests like most modern car, okay. So you still have power window, okay, back here. There's no modern like charging port or what like that. This car came out in 2005. I wasn't expecting any, but yeah, this cabin is quite roomy, and on short journeys or for city journeys, I don't mind sitting in the back of this car. Yeah. Okay guys, so I've been driving this Myvi for a while now. So this is the Myvi 1.3 SXI, so it's a top of the range manual variant, okay. So my impression of this car is that part alone, full spec manual. So now that's something you don't get anymore these days. You can't get a full spec car in a manual transmission. So this Myvi came in 2005. During that time, you can actually get a full spec car with a manual transmission. So nowadays, most car that has a manual transmission is being reserved to basically either the cheapest bare-bone model or it's a performance-oriented model. So there's nothing in between, as in like regular cars that still offer a traditional manual transmission. So manual is a dying breed. This manual transmission, for someone like me, I am not a daily manual driver. All my cars at home are automatic. So driving this car, the manual is surprisingly very easy to use. The clutch is very easy to modulate. The gear change for this particular car is a bit notchy, especially if I'm going to reverse. Sometimes I have to double clutch it to go to reverse. But other than that, it's a very easy gearbox to use. It's a little bit of a long throw gearbox, and then in terms of accuracy, it's decently accurate. Not the most nice shifting gearbox in the world, but it's easy to use. Now this gearbox is paired to the 1.3 liter K3 VE engine. So this engine, definitely you need to rev a bit to get the most of its power, especially if like above 3000 RPM. I feel like only at that RPM you can extract the most of its 85 horsepower and also 160 Nm of torque, okay. But to say that this car is underpowered is not really, because this car is actually quite light. So I think the power to weight ratio is quite sufficient, and I think it's enough for you to it's enough power for you to use in town situation. The clutch also is very easy to modulate. You can definitely tell like when you let go of the clutch whether you're not having enough power or too much power. You know, it's very easy to drive. In terms of visibility, I think if you look at the Myvi from the outside, it's a big square box. So this car, I think, is one of the best visibility ever. Like, it's so airy inside here. The window is all so big. So yeah, I would say like the Myvi is one of the most well visible car from the driver's seat. Not much issue going here. And then the one thing I realized also on the older Myvis like this, the side mirror is huge. Like, have you seen the side mirror on the first gen Myvi? It is actually quite big, you know, for a subcompact car. It feels like an SUV side mirror. So again, that translates into very good visibility in the Myvi. This Myvi is definitely one of those cars where you can just go in and drive. Even though it's a manual auto, It's a very easy car to drive. First time driver will love driving this thing. I myself also, I never thought I would say this, but I enjoy driving a manual Myvi, and this is something like so common on the road, but it's so chuckable. Handling is decent, you know. It's very light. There's no heaviness feel to it. Yeah. Another thing that I like about the Myvi, surprise, is the driver's position. I feel like despite the steering wheel not having that telescopic adjustment, yeah, the driving position is actually not bad. I feel quite comfortable. The steering is quite close to me. I don't have to stretch my hand, and the steering feel as well, I like it because this is the Myvi that came before the EPS Myvi, so it actually still has hydraulic power steering. So the newer Myvi, the second generation, it has EPS, electronic power steering. So this one, I am very pleasantly entertained by this steering. Like I can actually feel what my front wheels are doing. Like I can communicate with the front wheel. It doesn't feel fake at all. It weights up quite nicely at heavy speed. And then for some reason I like holding this steering wheel. Like maybe because this steering wheel is such in good condition. Like it's a very nice steering wheel to hold. So even though it's not leather, it's urethane. Yeah. So far my time with this Myvi, I am enjoying it. Like everything from the shifter, the engine where you need to rev to get the most power. It's definitely a fun little chuckable car, and I understand why now, like there's so many Myvis on the road. So, and then I know some friends who has a manual Myvi who kept that manual Myvi forever. They never sold it. And yeah, I can understand why. It's a very fun little car to drive. In terms of sound insulation, I'm hearing a lot of tire roar, sorry. Normal, I mean, don't expect too much insulation inside here. This car brand new was literally 50,000 ringgit. So, you know. But yeah, I'm loving driving this Myvi. I don't know why I shouldn't like it so much. Like it's just a normal Myvi, you know. But then like I can't like I enjoy it. Like it's literally a really nice car to drive. It's a great car if you want to learn how to drive a manual. It's very easy. So yeah, overall my time with the Myvi, I surprisingly enjoy driving this car, a manual Myvi. Okay guys, we have come to the end of this video, and I do hope you enjoy watching it. So before I wrap up, on top of doing YouTube videos, I'm also actually running my own personalized polishing as well as detailing service here in my hometown of Myvi, Sarawak. So if you are in the area and you wish to get your vehicles done by yours truly, do find my contacts in the description below. I would like to say thank you for watching. Do like and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in the next one.